few minutes actually. It's just been to get to say hello to quite a few of you on the call this morning. Welcome everyone to this official launch of Breaking Ground, the new community-led housing hub for the Liverpool City Region. My name's Peg Alexander. I'm a broadcaster and a presenter, and I'm your official host for the event this morning. I also work in community-led housing as well, so if we don't get hold of Tom, I'll be able to cover a little bit of what Tom probably was going to say. But now this event is also kicking off the festival, which goes on until a week tomorrow. It's a week of events to both launch the hub and also to raise the profile of community-led housing in the city region. And over the next week, you can join events from a showing of Push the film, which is on tonight, followed by a Q&A with its director, Frederick Girton. You can go to sessions where you can meet individual community-led housing schemes, find out who they are and about the amazing things that they've achieved. You can spend a day with Home Baked. You can have a tour around Destination Bootup. Festival is also looking at how to increase diversity in the community-led housing movement, schemes for young people, discussions about creating Black and LGBT plus led schemes, conversations about different agencies and their roles in supporting community-led housing, and you can even get a European perspective, and there's more. So it's a wonderful achievement to have so many events over the next 8 days, and what a fabulous, fabulous way to launch the hub Breaking Ground. We've also got some speakers for you this morning. And then after that, we're going to have around 20 minutes or so, maybe a bit longer, for questions and comments and debate and discussion. So if I can encourage you to make comments and have discussion during the chat, as you already are, which is brilliant, during the rest of the talks. I'll keep monitoring the chat. I'll bring in questions, and we'll try and make it, multimedia with the chat on one side and also the conversations. But first, let me introduce our speakers. To kick us off, we're going to have Byrne MP for Liverpool West Derby to officially welcome you all. We've got Brian Dawe. Brian is the Chief Executive of Safe Regen. He's going to be talking about the development of Breaking Ground, the hub. And of course, we've got Paul Kelly, the Director of Breaking Ground, to introduce you to the new organisation. And we're also hoping we will be joined by Tom Chance, who is the Chief Executive of the National Community Land Trust Network, to talk about the national community-led housing movement. But first, let's go straight to Byrne MP. MP for Liverpool West Derby, to kind of welcome you formally to the launch of Breaking Ground. Thank you very much, Ian.
Thanks very much, Peg. That's a lovely warm welcome. And first, a huge thanks to Paul and all the team for giving me the opportunity to say a few words of welcome on a subject I do feel passionately about. And also pay thanks to Steve Rodden, the Metro Mayor, for backing the festival and the hub. And it's great to see so many Liverpool City councillors, fellow colleagues on the call today. And, I'd like to also say, it's quite humbling to see so many people in this call, so many fantastic people who are activists in their communities, all getting involved in this project. So well done, everybody. It's a Saturday morning. There's a Derby day to contend with, but this is a hugely important week ahead to inform and educate people on community land trusts. Now, Liverpool has a long, proud history with community-led housing, with one of the highest concentrations of housing cooperatives, community land trusts and community-based housing associations in the country. And it's always been a hotbed of community-led housing. So today, as I said, I'm delighted to be able to welcome you all to the launch of the hub, but also the festival, a week-long festival, the Breaking Ground Community-Led Festival. Give my full support to the festival and the hub. And just to see what we've actually, highlighted some of the fantastic projects we've seen within Liverpool recently, over recent times. Home Baked Community Land Trust, Granby Fall Street Community Land Trust, real examples of how communities can be involved in shaping their own futures. And as well as being the MP for Liverpool West Derby, I'm also councillor in Everton, where Home Baked CLT is based. So been watching it with interest, how it's developed and the impact, the positive impact it's had on the community, with so many people getting involved in actually shaping that area. And it's something which is dear to my heart and something I'll be watching with real interest over the coming years. So I've always been an advocate of communities shaping their own destiny. So the Community Land Trust has always been something I've gravitated towards. And I feel, much like the campaign I'm involved in for the right to food into legislation, the time has now come for the Community Land Trust model. And I'm absolutely certain the model can be used to empower rebuild back our communities post-COVID. And I personally look forward to seeing what I can do, but also part of this wonderful collective we're seeing today, and I'm sure it will grow, to ensure that the community land trust model plays an intrinsic part in building back post-COVID. So I'll finish on that. Stay safe, enjoy the week. It's a fantastic opportunity to educate and learn about the model from fantastic people across the country. And I really do look forward to seeing you all in better times in person when we can do this again next year. Thanks very much, Peg.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very, very much, Ian. I love some of those phrases that you had in there, the community shaping their own destiny. You know, that is totally what community-led housing is about, and that is totally what Breaking Ground is going to be helping more communities, more community groups do across the Liverpool City region. And I love that phrase as well, the time has come. I think, you know, everyone would like to really feel that that is the case. Certainly the time has come for you all in the Liverpool City region. Thank you very, very much for that. Let's move on to Brian Dawe, if that's okay. Brian, I can see that you're there. Brian, who's been active and involved in shaping Breaking Ground right from the very, very start. Brian's going to talk to us a bit about how this has all happened, how it's come back, and also about the important role that Safe Regen is playing in this hub for the whole of the Liverpool City region.
Thanks, Peg, and good morning, everybody. Just to reiterate, I'm Brian Dawe, I'm the CEO of Safe Regeneration. And Safe Regeneration is an organisation that I founded 20 years ago, and it was born out of the frustration of not being included in decision making in our communities. But my background is a musician, I'm an artist, so we responded with the tools and the skills that we had, and we've spent the last 20 years creating artworks, making festivals, making music, engaging communities, and using art as a vehicle to do that. So we're also the incubator for Breaking Ground. Still not sure how that came about. Well, I am actually. It was through a series of meetings and comings together that Power to Change organised, and it was based at the Florey. And we created groups of people that had similar interests. And so our project, Destination Bootle, is about housing, and it's about change and building a neighbourhood. So we're very interested in housing. So within the other groups that were involved in that housing group was Homebake, Northwest Housing, Rotunda, Granby 4 Streets, Homes for Humanities. So I was a little bit starstruck, I have to be honest, when we kind of first started coming together, because these are guys that were doing it and really, you know, mobilising their communities through housing. We almost lost it. We almost lost this investment. It came to a point where there was a misunderstanding, or there wasn't a clear understanding, I should say, of the pipeline of projects that were coming through in the city region. And so Safe and our board made the decision to make the offer to incubate. We almost lost it, as I said. And I kind of felt like Frodo in Rivendell. You know, they were talking about the ring. Who's the ring bearer? Who's going to take the ring? So it was like, out the little Frodo going, we'll do it. So that's how it kind of felt, and that's how it still feels in a way, to be fair. Although our development is, you know, I think it's the largest in the UK with almost 200 homes. I still feel a bit in awe of some of the organisations that we're working with. Fantastic organisations, and so the commonality that we have, other than just working with housing, was the struggle that we've all had to go through. It shouldn't be this hard. and so that was a big motivation for me, was let's share what we know, or let's kind of capitalize on the opportunity to share from others. And Paul has done really, really well to take the best learning from across the UK and bring it into our thinking and share that with groups that are developing their schemes right now. And so early on, when we attended the Community Land Trust network meetings, straight away I was like, what a fantastic group of people. And so it's great to now feel part of that national network, and it's great to be able to have the capacity to share that learning and be a conduit for that learning to local groups in the city region. Just a note, I'd like to congratulate Paul getting this together this week. It's a fantastic week. Paul actually started on the 1st of April last year, no joke. And we've probably met 3 times in person in the last 11 months. So I'd like to congratulate Paul on the work that he's done today. He's made a massive impact, and I'm really proud for him, to be fair. So where are we now? Already the hub's having an impact. We work with organisations such as the Florey, Vale, and more recently L8 Matters. And so those difficulties that we had now are lessened for these organisations that are coming through, that are emerging, because we can firstly say it's okay. there's a path here, and there's a learning that we can share. But just to encourage people to say, no, it's happening elsewhere, and it's happening regularly. The challenge for us now is local government, it's local planning authorities, it's making sure that it's accepted mechanism for communities to be involved, and it's the ultimate mechanism. If we can shape our housing and where we live, well, then we're really making progress as community activists. My sincere hope for the next year is to begin to bring in the rest of the city region. We're very focused on Liverpool at the minute. We're a Sefton-based organisation, but we want to really stretch out across Knowsley, Halton and the Wirral, and really begin to offer that support to groups across the city region. So I'll leave it there if I can, Peg. Again, just like to congratulate Paul for getting us to here. We had a conversation earlier, and I said it's like you're on the start lines of the marathon. You've done all the training, you've done all the work. Just let's just execute the marathon. So thanks everyone, and I hope you have a great week.
Oh, thank you very much, Brian. And there's a lot of love for you in the chat as well, I have to say as well. Sonia says, don't undersell yourself. Your organisation has done so much. It's no wonder you're leading this. So there we go. Very, very nice there. And also there's a lot of love coming through for Paul and as well, Catherine, talking about the importance of national and regional links. Oh, apparently you're a legend, Paul, and you've got a great beard. Now, since I've only known you since lockdown, I don't know if your beard's locked down or if that's kind of normal as well, but there we go. You're even getting love for your facial hair in the chat. Thank you very much for that, Brian. I think the love for Paul is a good place to move on, for Paul to tell us a bit about Breaking Ground. I mean, I can tell you this from a national perspective, having been at some of those early meetings with Brian and Kevin, who's on the call as well, and Sandy and other people who are on the call, when it wasn't clear how this was gonna shape up, and as you say, Paul came in the 1st of April, right at the start of lockdown. I should just say, actually, one of the last things that I remember going to was Brian playing the piano, actually, at an event in Birmingham, which was good. One of the last times I was in a room with a lot of people was to the sounds of Brian's beautiful piano playing. But Paul, you've done this from your dining room table. Please introduce Breaking Ground to us all.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to do a bit of a screen check because I got a presentation, eh? Somebody had to. So let's go for it, and hopefully you'll be able to see this. Can everybody see that? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for that, and thanks for all the good words. I think, you know, I've loved this last 12 months. 11 months since April when I started. I have been at home most of the time, but actually, despite the challenges of COVID, it's been really good to be able to connect with people on Zoom. And, you know, hats off to Ian and some of the political support we've had. It's been fantastic. And I think Zoom has enabled some connections to be made. There are positives in this. So, yeah, I think we're at a really good point. And I just want to talk you through where I think we're at with Breaking Ground, and then we can have some questions if people have those. So, let me see if this is moving on. Breaking Ground. So what I'm going to go through is just where we've come from, building on a bit of what Brian was talking about what is community-led housing and what we've come to a definition for us here in our region. What the objectives and outcomes we hope to achieve with Breaking Ground are, and what we will do to deliver those. And then I'm going to launch our Breaking Ground Charter for the next 5 years, our 10-point charter, and wrapping it up with some thanks and festival highlights. So, where have we come from? I think one of the events we're doing as part of the festival is on Monday evening, Dr. Matt Thompson. He's recently published a book about Liverpool's hidden history of collective alternatives in housing. An amazing book and an amazing kind of overview of this city and how we do things. And we have an extraordinary history of community-led housing from the 60s in Liverpool. And that comes from periods of underinvestment. We all know that long-term lack of investment in our city and our region, struggle within communities and resistance within communities to make things happen. Bill Halsall knows a lot of this. He was there through a lot of this. And you know, the 60s, 70s and 80s, when Liverpool was the revolutionary hotbed of cooperative housing in the country, there's a really strong and rich history that we have. And also in recent times, all of these projects have been led by optimism, innovation, creativity, and people wanting to deliver, people getting on and doing stuff for themselves. And recently we've had the development of the land trust movement in the city with Homebaked and Granby and others coming through, New Ferry, you know, it's exciting to see what they're doing over there. Sonia and the L8 Matters Community Land Trust that's just been established. So there's a real movement, and hearing what Ian said about the support for that is just really inspiring. It feels like this is a moment, right? This is a moment, and Breaking Ground wants to play its role in that. Because for me, and I think what Brian said was interesting, is a lot of these projects have happened through struggle. I was involved in the setting up of Homebaked from the beginning, and it's taken us 8 years to get to this point with Homebaked. And actually, for what it is trying to achieve, that's just too long. And so Breaking Ground is really taking the position of, actually, what could this city do what could this region do if it really truly embraced these approaches once and for all, finally and strategically, to enable this sector to flourish and to enable this sector to really drive the reimagination of our neighbourhoods as part of the overall offer. All these projects have been very piecemeal and very kind of small scale. We need to fan the flames of this, and that's our position as Breaking Ground. We want to build on all the extraordinary skills and experience that we have through these projects and make more and more of them happen. And we want to build Liverpool City Region's community-led housing movement. That's what we're here to do, and we make no bones about it. As Brian was saying, we've had a steering group of great people to help get us to this point. And I take my hats off to SAFE, who put their hands up and said, we will lead on this. But all the other organisations involved, Homebaked, Granby, Housing People, Building Communities, Northwest Housing Services, Rotunda, VS6, Coming Home, Tiber, and Capacity in particular. And I just want to say, I know Alison's here, but Alison really has helped me since I came in post in April, to develop the business plan for Breaking Ground and to get it moving. And without Alison's help, it's been a great collaboration with Alison at Capacity to get the business plan together. And I'm really proud of kind of where we got to in an odd time over the last 12 months. So I'm very pleased to say we have developed a business plan. And it's out there, and you can have a copy, and I will email you a copy. And I feel really good about it. I think it's a great plan, and I think it lays out a flexible framework of what we want to achieve over the next 5 years. So, and we were deliberate about it being flexible because we're in a strange time. You know, what's going to happen post-COVID around funding and whatever. So we need to be able to move and adapt. So the business plan's there, and you can have a copy if you'd like to have a detailed look at it. But just to give you some flavour of what it's about, we in the business plan have defined what we see as community-led housing. And for us, it's community-led housing are projects that have to have 3 key characteristics in place. And this is very much linking into the national community-led housing movement and the definitions they've come up with. So firstly, they have to have open and meaningful community participation and consent throughout the whole process. It's not about 1 or 2 people, it's about building collective engagement in the process. Secondly, it's about the community group or organisation owning, managing or stewarding the housing into the future in whichever way they decide. There's a big housing cooperative movement in Liverpool and a strong history, and Northwest Housing doing amazing work. But there are other models too. And so it's for the community group to really understand what's possible and then to take the decisions that work for them. What's great about this is it's not one size fits all. It's about flexible, developing the right solutions for your particular neighbourhood and place. And then thirdly, the housing development must be of true benefit for the local community or the intentional community that comes together, and that those benefits are legally protected in perpetuity. So they can't be sold off, they can't be sold off to the highest bidder. They're about the community owning assets into the future. And in Liverpool, because this is what we do, we've added some things as well, just for some clarification, because we think this is really important. Community for us is about community ownership through self-organised and driven groups. So those who benefit have collective control. So we've just defined that a bit more. And communities are not only organised around neighbourhoods, but also communities of interest, whether it's a generational thing, experiential thing, other forms of identification. It's for the group to decide who they are and what they want to do. And then finally, and probably most importantly, and this is really important for us in our region, and we're clear about this, community-led housing is about creating generally affordable housing for people. And by affordable, we mean related to people's incomes and the social value of what those homes produce rather than market rates. We are fed up of this notion that you live in a house and 90% of your wages and your income goes on keeping that roof over your head. We have to reset this dial here. And I think the partners involved in Breaking Ground really feel that has to be part of our movement. There's a bit of words on here, but I also wanted, this is really important as well for us here, as it is nationally in the community-led housing movement. But we are talking about more than just homes. All the projects we're talking about, people are building homes, but they're also having impact on the neighbourhoods and the social fabric of the communities that they're within. So it's not just about having high quality homes that are environmentally sustainable and cheap to run and relevant to the neighbourhood they're in, rather than some of the poor quality housing we see put back in our places. But they're about engaging people in the process, developing their skills, using their skills, engaging people, making the communities resilient and impacting on the health and well-being of the place. I show the picture there of Home Baked, and the Home Baked Bakery, as people know, is an independent cooperative bakery that's a tenant of the Community Land Trust. But it's also about a social connecting place. It's where people come together. And that's what our community-led housing movement is about. And finally, it's about revitalising the local economies, keeping the wealth in our economies and supporting it to stay in our economy and not go out of our neighbourhoods into wider business bank balances that don't touch the people. This is about creating a movement locally that really sustains our neighbourhoods. So that's really important for Breaking Ground. That is who we are here in Liverpool. So just to run through some of the nuts and bolts, some key objectives, we have 5. Firstly, we're about providing practical advice and support to existing, new or potential groups across the city region. And what we want to do is to enable the skills and knowledge of groups to deliver more so that we have more projects in the pipeline. Currently, we're working with 31 groups, and that represents over 500 potential homes being built in our region. And that's without a real infrastructure of support being available. So just imagine what we could inspire and support if this was to take place. And today we want to put a challenge out that we want 5% of all new homes built in our region by 2030 to be community-led projects. So that's key for us. Secondly, our schemes are about high environmental standards within our projects. So all the projects we're talking about are delivering innovation in environmental standards, and very much there's a real challenge right now in terms of the impact housing is having on the environment. I hadn't realised myself just what an impact housing does have. So there's a real opportunity for projects, community-led, to really explore and innovate and do things differently, and we want to increase that knowledge. Thirdly, we just want to raise awareness of community-led housing. It's still a small movement, really. We want to let all communities across our region understand and know what the potential is and what is happening, and actually using the examples that we have in this region to really promote right across our 6 local authority areas the possibilities. And fourthly, we want to raise awareness of breaking ground. It's now established, it's launched. I'm not going to keep calling it the Liverpool City Region Community-Led Housing Hub. It's breaking ground. And we want people to know what that means, for it to have a real strong identity and values linked to it, and that people come to us to help get support for their projects. And fifthly, we want to make sure that breaking ground is here and stays. So we've had 1 year's funding from Power to Change. We've just put a bid in for another 2 years funding. And funnily enough, the funding runs out at the end of March, so we could be launching it and then wrapping up. But actually, we're confident Power to Change is going to continue to support us for another 2 years. But we want to have a very lean organisation. We're not trying to build something with lots and lots of staff and things like that. It's about a very lean organisation that can be there to support people in the right way. So what we will do, as I've just said, we'll have a very small team, very light of touch and adaptable to the current situation. So to sustain this, it's not a huge amount of money. And that's really important, I think, particularly post-COVID in this day and age. That's really important. Secondly, we're going to deliver an ongoing outreach programme of information and engagement about community-led housing. So in a post-COVID world, this will be a roadshow going out, letting people know what is possible and putting a spotlight on all the great projects we have in our region to animate what any community could do in our region. Thirdly, we're building a pool of very skilled community-led housing advisors who will go through the nationally accredited training programme that the Confederation of Cooperative Housing has developed, that will enable support to be given to any community group who might be starting a project, right through to getting a project on site and being delivered, and people moving into their homes. So that support programme is about positive, practical, hand-holding help in line with what each project might need. So very much bespoke, but that we will have the skills to deliver that. Oh, and just to say, we currently have 9 accredited housing advisors with the hub, but we want to build more skills within our community so that people within our neighbourhoods can help support projects as well. We will put equality, diversity, and inclusion at the heart of what we do. We've got some events during the week that are going to start those conversations, and we want to make sure that we are reaching everyone in our communities. And we're quite a diverse region, really. We have lots of different groups and communities living within our 6 local authority areas. So we want to make sure that we reach everybody, and we will have targets, and an annual statement will be produced about how we're doing around that. We will build an environmental advisory expertise that encourages community-led housing to innovate, to meet the challenges the current housing context poses. And we'll also build a political champions group to help embed community-led housing within our local authority housing strategies. And I take my hats off. I've had great conversations with councillors and MPs already over the last 10, 11 months. And there's a real appetite to support us, which I can't tell you how great that feels. It feels like there's a new movement going on here in the city. And then we also want to make sure that Liverpool is linked into the national movement, because there is great expertise out there. This is a very diverse sector of people doing strange, weird and wonderful things all over the country, and we can learn from them, and we can share our experiences as well. So to wrap up, this is our 10-point charter. This is our ambitions for the next 4 or 5 years. We want key strategic partners, the local authorities, the housing association movement, the voluntary and community sector, to pledge support for community-led housing, to really understand it and get behind it. Secondly, we want this Liverpool City region to sign up to make the shift. If you haven't seen the film Pushed, it's just a remarkable film and you need to watch it. But this is the new global movement that commits housing policies to human rights-based approaches. And I think this is something Liverpool should be doing. London, Barcelona, Berlin, they're taking radical steps to ensure that cities don't become deserts of people and driven by finance. So we want to put that pledge out there that that's what we would like Liverpool City Region to do. As I said before, we want to see an increase of all new homes being built with a target of 5%. Over the next 5 years, there's 20,000 homes planned for this region. If 1,000 of those were community-led, wouldn't that be fantastic? We've already got a pipeline of 500. We can do this. We can make this part of this movement. We will increase awareness of the sector, particularly across the VCSFE sector. So we'll be doing a lot of work collaborating with organisations, and that's happening now. And then we also would like to call for the Liverpool Combined Authority and its work with Homes England to ambitiously support this sector with finance. London is doing it through the Mayor in London. Bristol is doing it through Bristol City Council, and they will be talking at our events during the week. And we would like to call for an investment of around £3.6 million over the next 4 years to fund both revenue support to groups to get organised, to get planning, to undertake feasibility work, but also capital funding to enable those projects to deliver. And we have started those conversations with the Combined Authority. We would also like our 6 local authorities to embrace community-led housing as part of their housing enabling function. Bristol is doing incredible stuff strategically, and Liverpool, we know, wants to do that too. So we want community-led housing policies incorporated within the housing strategy of each local authority area, with a definition of community-led housing adopted and targets for new schemes to be supported. We want land disposal policies adopted for community-led housing schemes with land identified to deliver that policy. And again, Bristol have just gone through that, which is quite inspirational to see, and we can do that here. We want named officers in each authority to help support community-led housing projects, and a pathway of that support through local authorities to be mapped out to enable projects to work more effectively with our local authorities. And we know it's really challenging times for local authorities, particularly up here in the north. So we also understand the complexities of that. And then we would like to build in a commitment that any local authority owned land that is sold for development must have a requirement that community-led housing forms part of any agreements made. So that's something that we think is really important. We want to initiate 12 new community-led housing projects each year, with one at least in each of our constituent local authority areas. And we want to secure some financial support to enable the Breaking Ground to build up its pool of skilled advisors from our communities in our region. After today, we will be releasing a partnership offer document to the housing associations in our region, because we want to build a strong partnership with them, and we want them to see the potential of what Breaking Ground can do, particularly linked to their own developments and potential land that they might have. And finally and lastly, Liverpool needs to reclaim its stake at the heart of the national movement of community-led housing. This is in our DNA. This is what we do here in the Liverpool City region. And I think we've lost that strategic oversight a little bit, and we need to reclaim our place within the national movement and continue to innovate and embed this work. So just a few thank yous that are really important to me. I want to thank Brian and Safe. I've been in the office 3 times. They've made me very welcome. I have a really nice little office in there, and I would like to be in there more, but I've really appreciated starting to feel part of the Safe family, and I particularly appreciate Brian's support. I know he's always there at the end of the phone. All the steering group members, I mentioned particularly Alison for her support with the business plan, but the steering group members have really helped share their knowledge and skills. And I've known they've always been there. And also the national bodies, particularly the National Community Land Trust Network and the Confederation of Cooperative Housing and their accredited training programme. And Peg and Alison Ward, her colleague, who are supporting the national network of community-led housing hubs to learn from each other. And that has been absolutely critical for me. It's been the most inspiring network I've ever worked in my last 30 years. And then Kath, who's on this call as well, who's helping. Kath and I have worked together over years and we're friends, but I've always known if I needed to talk, she's been there, and I've really appreciated Kath. And also finally the politicians, some of the councillors, Sarah Doyle, who I know is here, Barry Kushner, Joe Bird over in the Wirral. You know, people are really passionately wanting to support this, and Ian and Dan Carden and Kim Johnson. It's just been great. George Howarth writing to the Chancellor about the Community Housing Fund. So I would urge you to watch the film Safe. And I just wanted to end here. This is a picture of the Shillings building in New Ferry. Mark Craig's here, Margie's here. This is going to go on site this year, hopefully their first development after a devastating explosion in New Ferry. And they're going to do things, New Ferry CLT. They've got an event later in the week. I'd urge you to join. But that's it from me. And thank you very much for your support.
Thank you very, very much, Paul. That was absolutely brilliant. I think I can see some of you are clapping, but if anybody wants to unmute themselves to clap, I think that is quite a good thing to do at the moment. It's so weird.
Talk, so sorry about that. It's hard on Zoom, but yeah, thank you.
You know, Paul, at the start of that talk, you used some words that I wrote down. I have to say, because as you might have guessed from my accent, right, I'm on the other side of the Pennines. I'm over the other way, over in Yorkshire. But you know that you used some words to talk about almost like the kind of the DNA of the Liverpool City Region, and there's someone on the other side of the country. I just thought they sum up what I think as well, and they're just perfect for the community-led housing movement. You said that this is a city region full of optimism, creativity, and people wanting to deliver. That's what you said, and I just think that is absolutely perfect. There could not be better grounding, really, for having an amazing community-led housing movement that's doing even more than you've already been doing over there. There's been some great chat as well going on through that. So let's open it out for discussion. Now, it makes it easier for me if you want to speak, if you can actually use the raise hand button. If you can't find the raise hand button, because you're over two screens at my end, if you go like that, I probably might not see you. And also if you use the hand up thing that's a reaction, I might not spot that as well. I'll do my best. But raise hand is if you open up the participants list, by your name, there should be, just by the participants list, there should be a little button, and what happens is you come to the top of my list of names here if you want to speak. So we'll try and use that. Keep conversation going in the chat as well. One of the comments that got a lot of discussion through Paul's presentation was one that Kath mentioned in there. We've got a lot of conversation going on there, which was about how to get social value or total value of schemes assessed rather than just market value alone. So we throw that out into the conversation, and obviously Sarah was having a conversation with quite a few other people as well there about things that can happen at a council level. But who would like to kick off with any thoughts, any comments, any questions? Someone just grab the floor. Barbara.
Hello everybody, Barbara and Ken Rouse. We run Bootle YMCA Community Centre, just in case anybody's wondering who are those two people. And we work closely with Brian and Jane, I'm delighted to say. Can I just add that we are in a very old building, and the plaster is coming off in chunks rather than flakes. And our future depends on Destination Bootle, because we are hopefully going to be a part of it, and I welcome this with open arms. But I just have a question for Paul. You have communication with local local areas, local communities. How much communication do you have with Sefton?
Yeah, I think what's happened, just for information, Safe Regeneration, their scheme, one of the biggest community-led housing schemes in the country, was in for planning this week with Sefton Council. 187 units, extensive community facilities and arts facilities, incredible environmental credentials, and was basically turned down on the fact that planners wanted to see 2 car parking spaces for every property in an area that has one of the lowest car ownerships in the country anyway, and in an area that has the most incredible transport connections anyway. And one of the things that was really shocking in the report from planners was they talked about Safe's environmental credentials in this project being laudable in terms of what it was trying to achieve. And this is a council that has announced a climate emergency. And it was a shocking moment. And I think Brian and Safe were knocked by that, but have got back on the horse. And this is just part of the journey. But it isn't acceptable. Sefton Council, I'm a Sefton resident, and I was at the planning committee, and it was embarrassing. It was an embarrassment in terms of what happened at that planning committee. So we need to do more. We need to keep lobbying and particularly educate. And if we're really going to have future communities that are going to be, this city was built on ambition. This whole Bootle was built on massive ambition, and that's what the SAFE scheme was about. So we will do what we can. Individually, SAFE are doing everything they can, as all other projects are, but collectively as well as a movement, and working to lobby and educate councillors about what should be being achieved. The SAFE scheme will happen, I have no doubt.
Oh, yes, definitely.
It's just what we've got to get, I believe this very strongly, and people can knock me down. What we have to remove the struggle. It can't take years and years to build quality, ambitious, community-led schemes in our neighbourhoods. That's the bit that has to change. And I think we're at a moment where we want to try and do that.
And unfortunately, I think that's not the first time I've heard about that issue of 2 car parking spaces per home. Not in your area, being an issue on planning permission. Certainly very interesting. Claude Henrikson's got his hand up. There's a bit of a Yorkshire takeover going on here.
Thank you, Peg. And Paul, thank you for the invite. Very impressive presentation. I was going to say, and we're going to be working together, and I'm going to be give you as much support as I can, because I'm an advisor, community-led advisor, equality, diversity, and inclusion. What I just wanted to say, and it's something I'm going to speak to you about when we speak, is that as well as housing, there's opportunities within this movement to create employment and training for the next generation of young builders. And just hearing that lady talking about her community centre where the plaster's falling off in bits rather than flakes. So one thing I think was missing from that presentation, and one of the things I want to push, is the opportunities that we can give to maintain properties once they're developed, employment and training opportunities for young people, enterprise, because even when we build these communities, we're going to have to maintain them, because one of the issues with housing in the past, especially local housing, local authority housing, the houses weren't maintained well. That's why they had to knock them down. So it was just to say that as well, when we're talking about community-led housing, let us look at the other things that we bring to the table as well, and the value for money that we give local authorities and the government with employment training and enterprise opportunities. That was just something. And a fantastic presentation.
Thank you, Claude. Yeah. And my guess is, you've got people like Ken and Barbara on the call. A lot of people around in the area interested in looking at what opportunities there will be, and certainly skills and young people's development is something nationally that other hubs like Breaking Ground are looking at and are working at. So one of the great things, Paul mentioned the hub network, that's what I work on the rest of the time. And one of the things that is great about that is that the hubs are all kind of working alongside each other. So there's some really good experience where that's happening. Mark's put his hand up. Mark.
Yes, great presentation, Paul. Look, as your slides went through, you know, and which probably most people here don't know, but for New Ferry, it's been a very, very difficult 12 months for us. I'll talk about this more on Wednesday, is it at 6 o'clock, when I'll be giving my presentation, but just very, very briefly, having an organisation like Breaking Ground has actually really helped us, because we've had a very difficult time, as I said, and it's just the experience and knowledge of other people that have helped us, because none of us had ever been involved in anything like this before. And we know also that from the skills, the lack of skills that we still have within our community land trust is still a major headache for us. And having the pandemic has not made it easy for us. And there's been some other reasons why we haven't been able to recruit any new people to our board of trustees during this pandemic. The help and knowledge that we've had from Paul and from Catherine Simmons has been really helpful for us. So I think that having an organisation like Breaking Ground, I think, is absolutely invaluable to fledgling young CLTs that are trying to get off the ground, that need quite a lot of support. I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the community of New Ferry for the help that we have so far had from Breaking Ground.
Oh. Thank you so much. Just to say, for me, it's been a real pleasure getting to know New Ferry. I mean, it's an amazing neighbourhood. It's been through a lot in the last three and a half years. But I think there's an energy there for the community wanting to be part of the solution moving forward. And you'll get there, and you'll get on site this year with your first project. Yeah, but it has been a pleasure working with you too, Mark. And I know it's been tough.
When's the New Ferry event? There's a New Ferry event as part of the festival?
The New Ferry event.
It's on Saturday. It's on Wednesday.
6
o'clock.
Great. Wednesday, 6 o'clock. Anybody else want to ask a question, make a comment? David.
Just a very, very quick comment, and just to wrap up from a political perspective, I think you need to link in with the white paper, because your presentation is all about residents and communities and listening to communities. And I think you've pitched it absolutely right. From a housing association perspective, yes, you need to come and speak to us, and I know you'll do that. I've also spoke to you, Paul, about that capacity building within the community, or the advisors which you're on board with. So I get a real sense of destination for today and where you want to be. And I think it's a really good sort of opening presentation for the week of the festival. So well done. Looking forward to speaking to you throughout the week and in the future 12 months and more. So well done.
Great, thank you very, very much. We're also very pleased that we've just been joined by Mike Amesbury MP. I don't know if you're able to come on camera and voice Mike and say a few words.
Yes, no, it's pleased to join you at this late stage. I've actually been, well, I haven't been to Burnley. Obviously, I've been doing it virtually as I am now. I'm actually speaking from my patch in Vale. Obviously, part of it is in the Liverpool City Region. Paul has spoke to me before about his ambition in terms of community housing and community-led housing. And of course, that sits nicely with Labour values. I mean, we're on a journey now in terms of that political cycle. We're I think we're just over 1,000 days from the next general election. So we've rapidly got to build on the 2019 manifesto, obviously create a programme of government. But in terms of housing, community-led housing has got to be a key component. There's an affordability crisis at the moment, some calls it a housing crisis, and that's where Labour, working together with key stakeholders such as yourselves and beyond, can actually create that ambition and fulfil that need of our citizens up and down the country. So, you know, pleasure to be here. Have a fantastic conference. I know you're in very good company. My good friend and comrade Ian, I think, has been speaking, and he certainly lobbies me on a regular basis, and rightfully so. But big thank you to you all.
Great, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you for that. It's really good timing. You know, we are just coming bang up to 11 o'clock. One of the things that happens when you get a live TV presenter to do your event is that we come in bang on time. So we are coming in at 11 o'clock. I just want to finish off by saying something that Mark said. He said the work of breaking ground was absolutely invaluable. Those were the words that you used, Mark. And here's to the work of breaking ground continuing on to be absolutely invaluable to loads more schemes and new schemes and diverse schemes and schemes right across the city region over the next few years. It's been amazing work so far. Huge congratulations to everybody who's been involved through the steering group getting this up and running. There's a lot of love in the room, obviously, for Paul as well. And I think generally there's just a lot of love in the room. I'm really feeling that, which is nice and amazing, given that you're all faces on screens. Just before we finish, as a reminder, Push the Film is being shown tonight as part of the festival. I think you need to email Paul if you haven't got a link for that, and then afterwards there is a Q&A with its director Frederick Gerton, and it's a really interesting film. It is a very interesting film, will really get you thinking. But what I'd like to do to finish, if that's okay, just because I think it's been such a great event and a great start, let's everybody unmute. And I think let's just clap and cheer our way out so that we can go out this feeling full of what were the phrases? Optimism, creativity, and people who want to deliver, which is what you all are on here. So let's just sort of clap and cheer. Way! We can make it happen. Amazing. It's the start of the next phase. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Good luck to Breaking Ground. And I can't wait to see all the amazing schemes that move further on in the next few years and start to develop across the region. And frankly, I can't wait to come and visit you all in Liverpool very, very soon as it's allowed. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Come on, let's clap and cheer our way out again. Keep doing great. Lovely to meet you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Paul.
Oh, thanks, Michelle.
I think Sandy's
Sorry, I'm just messaging someone. They've sent
me.
Oh,
that's all right.
Sorry. Oh, it's recording still. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I'll stop now.